Imagine this. You're standing at the altar in your grandmother's vintage wedding dress. 200 guests are watching. The man you love is about to become your husband. And then, mm, he grabs your dress and tears it right off your body in front of everyone. This actually happened to Victoria Matthews. But that torn dress? That was just the beginning. What Victoria discovered in the days after her wedding went viral, with 4 million views, would make your blood run cold. Secret emails, stolen money. A plan so calculated, so cruel, that even his own mother couldn't defend him. But here's what Derek Harrison didn't count on. The woman he tried to destroy would rise from those ashes stronger than he ever imagined. And years later, when he came crawling back, begging on his knees in tears, well, let's just say karma has a perfect memory. This is the story of the wedding dress that got torn off, the betrayal that went viral, and the revenge that tasted like freedom. Let's begin. The sound of tearing silk cut through the church like a scream. Victoria Matthews stood at the altar in her grandmother's vintage lace wedding dress. The September sunlight filtered through stained glass windows, painting everything in shades of gold and rose. 200 guests sat in polished pews, waiting for the ceremony to continue. Father Thomas O'Brien held the prayer book open, his mouth frozen mid-sentence. The tearing sound came again, louder this time. Victoria looked down. Derek Harrison, her fiancé of 3 years, had both hands gripped around the delicate fabric of her dress. The silk was giving way beneath his fingers. "Derek?" Her voice came out small, confused. "What are you doing?" He didn't answer. He pulled harder. The dress ripped from neckline to waist. The sound echoed through the vaulted ceiling. Beads scattered across the marble floor, bouncing and rolling in every direction. Victoria's white slip showed beneath the torn fabric. Someone gasped. A woman in the third row. Victoria tried to grab the torn pieces, tried to hold them together. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't manage it. The fabric kept slipping through her fingers. "Derek, stop. Please stop." He looked at her then. His eyes were cold. She had never seen that expression on his face before. It was like looking at a stranger wearing Derek's skin. "I can't marry you," he said. His voice carried through the silent church, clear, steady, rehearsed. "I love someone else." Father O'Brien took a step forward. "Son, this isn't the time or place for—" "Her name is Amber," Derek spoke over the priest. "I've loved her for 8 months. I'm sorry, Victoria, but I can't do this anymore." Victoria's mother, Patricia, stood up from the front pew. "Derek Harrison, what in God's name?" The church doors at the back opened. Footsteps clicked against marble. High heels, slow and deliberate. Every head turned. A woman walked down the center aisle. She wore a red dress. Not wedding guest red, blood red, the kind of red that demanded attention. The dress hugged every curve, ending mid-thigh. Her blonde hair cascaded over bare shoulders. Victoria knew that face. She knew those green eyes. Amber Collins, her yoga instructor. The woman who came to Victoria's house every Tuesday and Thursday morning. Who drank coffee in Victoria's kitchen. Who laughed at Victoria's jokes and asked about her day. Amber smiled as she approached the altar. Not apologetic, not embarrassed. Triumphant. Victoria's veil slipped off. It pulled at her feet, tangling around her ankles. She couldn't move, couldn't think. Her brain kept trying to process what her eyes were seeing, but nothing made sense. Rachel Thompson, her maid of honor, finally moved. She pulled off her shawl and tried to wrap it around Victoria's exposed slip. Her hands were shaking too. "Tori," Rachel whispered. "Come on, let's go." But Victoria's legs wouldn't work. She stood there in her torn dress, in her dead grandmother's lace that she had promised to honor, watching Derek walk towards Amber. He took Amber's hand, right there, at the altar where he was supposed to marry Victoria, in front of Father O'Brien, in front of God. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way," Derek said, still not looking at Victoria. "But this is for the best. You'll understand eventually." Amber leaned into him. "We didn't want to hurt you, but we couldn't fight our feelings anymore." Phones came out. Victoria heard the electronic clicks of camera shutters, saw the red lights of video recording. 200 witnesses documenting her humiliation. Derek and Amber turned. They walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand. He was still wearing his tuxedo. She was in that red dress. They looked like a couple, like they belonged together. The church doors closed behind them. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Victoria looked down at her torn dress, at the beads scattered across the marble, at her veil trampled under her feet. This dress had been her grandmother's. Her mother had saved it for 30 years. Victoria had spent 6 months carefully altering it to fit. Now it was destroyed. Father O'Brien touched her shoulder gently. "Child, I'm so sorry. This has never happened in 40 years of performing ceremonies." Patricia climbed the altar steps. Her face was white. She looked 10 years older than she had 15 minutes ago. "Baby," she said, "let's get you out of here." But Victoria couldn't move. She stared at the doors where Derek had disappeared, where her fiancé had just walked out with another woman, with her yoga instructor, with someone Victoria had trusted. "I don't understand," Victoria heard herself say. "We were getting married right now. We were supposed to get married right now." Rachel took her arm. I know, but we need to leave." The guests started standing, murmuring. Some looked away, embarrassed. Others kept their phones raised, still recording. Victoria saw Derek's mother, Helen Harrison, sitting in the front pew. She was crying into a handkerchief. Helen stood. She walked toward Victoria with her hands outstretched. "Victoria, dear, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Derek has been under so much stress at work. He doesn't know what he's saying." Victoria laughed. The sound came out wrong. Broken. "He ripped out of my dress off," she said. Her voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. "In front of everyone. That's not stress. That's a choice." Helen's face crumpled. She turned and hurried toward the side exit, still clutching her handkerchief. Patricia wrapped her arms around Victoria. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you home." "The reception," Victoria said. "What about the reception? The food is already there, the cake, the band is setting up right now." "Forget the reception," Rachel said firmly. "Let's just go." They guided her down the altar steps. Victoria walked in a daze. Her torn dress trailed behind her, pieces of fabric catching on the wooden pews. More beads scattered with every step. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Victoria's hand moved automatically, checking her phone over and over. 3 times in a row. The same motion, hoping that if she unlocked it enough times, she would wake up from this nightmare. But the screen showed the same thing every time. Text messages flooding in, notifications exploding across the top, all from numbers she didn't recognize. The church parking lot was full of cars. Wedding guests stood in clusters, talking in low voices. They stopped when Victoria emerged, Rachel and Patricia flanking her on either side. Someone raised a phone. The flash went off. "Don't!" Rachel snapped at them. "Show some respect." But more phones came up, more flashes, more video cameras. Victoria heard her mother's sharp intake of breath. Rachel's car was parked near the entrance. She had driven Victoria to the church that morning. That felt like a lifetime ago. Victoria had been happy then. Nervous, but happy. Excited to start her life with Derek. Rachel unlocked the car and helped Victoria into the passenger seat. The torn dress bunched awkwardly. Beads pressed into Victoria's legs through the thin slip fabric. Patricia leaned in through the window. "I'll follow you to her apartment. Give me 15 minutes. Rachel nodded and pulled out of the parking lot. They drove in silence. The road took them past the reception venue. Victoria could see the white tent in the garden. The strings of lights were already lit, even though it was only 3:30 in the afternoon. A delivery truck was parked outside, probably bringing the flowers. $4,000 worth of white roses and baby's breath. Derek had insisted on the roses. He said they were classic, elegant. Victoria wondered if Amber liked roses. "How long?" Victoria asked suddenly. Rachel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "How long what?" "How long have you known?" A pause, too long. "Tori, how long, Rachel?" Rachel's jaw clenched. "I saw them together 6 weeks ago, at that coffee shop downtown. They were holding hands, laughing. I tried to tell you." Victoria remembered. Rachel had called her one evening, her voice strange, urgent. She had said they needed to talk about Derek, that there was something Victoria should know. Victoria had cut her off. She had been addressing wedding invitations at the time, and she was running behind schedule. She told Rachel she didn't have time for drama. That if Rachel had a problem with Derek, she needed to get over it. Rachel had gone quiet. She had said, okay, never mind. She had tried to warn Victoria. I'm sorry, Rachel said now. I should have insisted. I should have made you listen. Victoria leaned her head against the window. The glass was cool again against her forehead. He planned this. He knew he was going to do this, and he showed up anyway. He put on his tuxedo. He stood at that altar, and then he ripped my dress off. I know. In front of everyone. I know. My grandmother wore that dress. My mother wore that dress. Rachel's voice broke. I know, Tori. I'm so sorry. They pulled up outside Victoria's apartment building. The building she shared with Derek, or had shared. Past tense. Everything was past tense now. Victoria got out of the car, her torn dress dragged on the pavement. She didn't care anymore. The apartment was on the 3rd floor. They took the elevator in silence. Victoria's reflection stared back at her from the mirrored walls. Torn dress, smudged makeup, hair falling out of the elaborate updo the stylist had spent 2 hours creating that morning. She looked like a disaster, a walking, breathing disaster. The apartment door was unlocked. Victoria pushed it open. The living room was empty. Wrong, half empty. Derek's leather recliner was gone. The bookshelf he had built was gone. The coffee table they had picked out together last year was gone. Victoria walked to the bedroom. The closet door stood open. Derek's side was empty. All his clothes were gone. His shoes, his belts, his watch collection from the dresser top. He had moved out while they were at the church. While Victoria was waiting at the altar in her grandmother's dress, someone had been here removing Derek's belongings. He had planned that too, coordinated the timing, made sure Victoria would come home to an empty apartment. A piece of paper sat on the bed, white printer paper, folded once. Victoria picked it up. Her hands were steadier now. Shock did that sometimes, made everything feel far away and fuzzy around the edges. The note was typed, not handwritten. Derek's handwriting was terrible, so he always typed important things. Victoria, I know this is hard to understand right now, but I need you to know that this wasn't about you. You're a good person. You're kind and smart and loyal. You would have made someone a good wife. But you're safe. You're predictable. I always knew exactly what you would say, what you would do, how you would react. There was no mystery, no passion. Amber is different. She's exciting. She makes me feel alive. She's a risk worth taking. I'm sorry I hurt you. That was never my intention. I hope someday you'll forgive me and see that I did us both a favor. The apartment is paid through the end of the month. After that, you'll need to figure something out. My name is on the lease, so I'm within my rights to move out. I wish you all the best. Derek Victoria read it twice, then a third time. You're safe, you're predictable. She crushed the paper in her fist. The doorbell rang. Patricia had arrived. Rachel went to let her in. Victoria stayed in the bedroom, standing in her torn dress, holding Derek's note. She heard her mother's voice from the living room. Where is she? Bedroom. Footsteps approached. Patricia appeared in the doorway. She took in the empty closet. The note in Victoria's hand. Her face went hard. Tell me where he is, Patricia said quietly. Tell me where he is, and I'll kill him myself. Mom, I mean it. 30 years ago, your father would have hunted him down. This is unforgivable. Victoria held out the note. Her mother took it, read it, crumpled it up just like Victoria had. You're safe, Patricia read from the crumpled paper. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're safe, as if that's an insult, as if being safe is something to apologize for. Rachel hovered in the doorway. What do you need, Tori? What can we do? Victoria looked down at her torn dress, her grandmother's dress. The lace was ruined. Some pieces were barely hanging on by threads. She had promised to preserve this dress, to pass it down to her own daughter someday. I need to get out of this dress, she said. I need to cut myself out of this dress right now. Victoria sat in the bathtub, fully clothed in her torn wedding dress. The water was cold. She had filled it 2 hours ago with hot water, but she hadn't moved since then. The water had gone cold around her. The silk dress had absorbed the water, becoming heavy and clinging to her legs. She could hear Patricia and Rachel talking in the living room. Their voices were low, but Victoria caught fragments. Gone viral already. 4 million views. I'll kill that man. Victoria leaned her head back against the tile. The bathroom ceiling had a water stain in the corner. She had asked Derek to fix it 6 months ago. He had said he would get to it eventually. Eventually never came. She wondered if Amber had a water stain in her bathroom. She wondered if Derek would fix it for her. If Amber was exciting enough to merit home repairs. Someone knocked on the bathroom door. Tori? Rachel's voice. Gentle. Can I come in? It's open. Rachel pushed the door open slowly. Her eyes widened when she saw Victoria in the bathtub. Oh, honey, let's get you out of there. I can't get the buttons undone, Victoria said. Her voice sounded flat, empty. The dress has 37 buttons down the back. Derek was supposed to help me undo them later, after the reception, in our honeymoon suite. Rachel knelt beside the tub. Water immediately soaked into her bridesmaid dress, but she didn't seem to notice. Do you have scissors? Under the sink. Rachel found the kitchen scissors Victoria used for cutting herbs. She came back and carefully began cutting through the sodden fabric. I spent 6 months altering this dress, Victoria said. 6 months of tiny stitches, taking it in at the waist, letting it out at the hips, making sure the lace laid flat. I know. My grandmother wore it in 1962. My mother wore it in 1989. I was supposed to pass it down. The scissors cut through the last button. The dress fell away from Victoria's shoulders. I'm going to help you stand up, Rachel said. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Victoria stood. The wet dress pulled around her ankles. She stepped out of it, wearing only her soaked slip and bra. Rachel wrapped a towel around her. Let's get you warm. They went to the bedroom. Patricia had laid out pajamas on the bed, soft flannel pants and an old college sweatshirt, the kind of clothes you wore when you were sick, when the world was too much. Victoria changed mechanically, removed her soaked underclothes, pulled on the dry pajamas. Her hair was still pinned up in the elaborate wedding style, so Rachel carefully removed each pin. They clattered into the trash can. 17 bobby pins total. Your phone won't stop ringing, Patricia said from the doorway. I turned it off. What are people saying? Patricia and Rachel exchanged looks. Mom, Rachel, what are people saying? Patricia came into the room. She sat on the bed beside Victoria. The video is everywhere. Someone posted it on social media during the ceremony. It's been shared thousands of times already. Victoria felt something cold settle in her stomach. Show me. Tori, you don't want to... Show me. Rachel pulled out her phone reluctantly. She opened a social media app and handed it to Victoria. The video had been posted 2 hours ago. The caption read, Groom ditches bride at altar for mistress in red dress. 4.2 million views. 37,000 comments. Victoria pressed play. The video started with a close-up of Victoria at the altar. She looked happy, radiant, completely unaware of what was about to happen. The camera panned to Derek. His face was set, determined. Then his hands moved to her dress. The sound of tearing silk was even worse on the video, amplified by the church acoustics. Victoria watched herself try to hold the torn pieces together, watched her face crumple in confusion. In hurt, she heard Derek's voice. I can't marry you. I love someone else. The camera swung to catch Amber's entrance. That red dress, those confident strides down the aisle. Someone in the video whispered, oh my God, oh my God. Victoria watched Derek and Amber walk away together, watched herself standing alone at the altar in her torn dress. The video ended with a close-up of her face. The exact moment comprehension dawned. The exact moment her world shattered. The comments were brutal. Imagine being dumped at your own wedding that dress. Though she must have been terrible in bed for him to do that, the other woman is way hotter. Let's be real, I would have died. This is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Victoria handed the phone back. Her hands were shaking again. 200 witnesses, she said quietly. 200 people watched him choose her over me. And now 4 million strangers have watched it too. Patricia took Victoria's face in her hands. Listen to me. This is not your fault. This is not your shame to carry. Then why does it feel like it is? Because society teaches women that being rejected is a failure. That if a man leaves, we must have done something wrong. But that's not true. Derek is the one who should be ashamed. Derek and that woman. Victoria pulled away. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting, orange and pink streaked across the sky. It was still her wedding day. Somewhere in an alternate universe, she and Derek were at their reception right now, cutting the cake, having their first dance. I need to call the venue, Victoria said. Cancel everything. The food, the flowers, the band. Already done, Rachel said. Your mom and I made all the calls. The vendors were very understanding. Most of them refunded the deposits. Most of them? The band kept their fee, said it was in the contract. Victoria laughed. The sound came out bitter. Of course they did. Her phone, which Patricia had turned off, sat on the dresser. Victoria turned it back on. Immediately, notifications flooded the screen. Text messages, voicemails, social media tags. One message stood out. From Derek's mother, Helen. Victoria, please call me. We need to talk about this. Derek isn't himself. I'm sure we can work this out. Victoria deleted it. Another message from a number she didn't recognize. Is this the wedding dress girl? I'm a reporter with Channel 7 News. I'd love to interview you about your experience. Delete. Another message? Another reporter. Delete. A message from her boss at the accounting firm where she worked. Victoria, I saw the video. Take all the time you need. We'll cover your shifts. At least that was kind. Victoria scrolled through more messages, mostly from people she barely knew. Acquaintances, distant cousins, high school classmates she hadn't spoken to in 10 years. Everyone wanted details. Everyone wanted to know how she felt. One message made her pause. From Bethany Preston, her cousin. I'm so sorry, Tori, I was there. I recorded what happened because I thought it was so crazy. I didn't know it would blow up like this. Do you want me to delete my post? Victoria stared at the message. Bethany had posted it. Her own cousin had made it go viral. She typed back, yes, delete it, please. But it was too late. The video had already been downloaded and reshared thousands of times. Deleting the original wouldn't change anything. Patricia brought in a tray with tea and crackers. You need to eat something. I'm not hungry. I don't care. Eat anyway. Victoria took a cracker and nibbled the edge. It tasted like sawdust. Everything tasted like sawdust. Her mouth was dry, her throat tight, but she forced herself to swallow. The doorbell rang. All three women froze. I'll get it, Rachel said. She went to the door. Victoria heard the chain slide into place, then the door opening part way. Can I help you? Rachel's voice was cold. A man's voice answered. I'm looking for Victoria Matthews. Is she available? No, who are you? I'm from the Tribune. I'd like to ask her a few questions about... She has no comment. Leave. If she could just give us 5 minutes. I said leave, or I'm calling the cops. The door slammed. Rachel returned, her face flushed with anger. There are reporters outside. 3 of them, with cameras. Victoria put her face in her hands. This is never going to end. It will, Patricia said firmly. It'll blow over. In a week, something else will happen and everyone will forget about you. But Victoria knew better. The internet didn't forget. Videos lived forever. Years from now, someone could Google her name and find that video. Find her standing at the altar in her torn dress, crying. Night fell. Patricia made up the couch for herself. Rachel insisted on staying too, taking the armchair. Neither of them would leave Victoria alone. Victoria lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The same ceiling Derek had stared at every night for 3 years. Had he been planning this the whole time? Had he looked at this ceiling and thought about how he would leave her? Her phone buzzed. Against her better judgment, she looked. A text from Derek. I hope you're okay. I know this is hard, but it's for the best. You'll see that eventually. Victoria read it 3 times. Each time, her hands shook a little harder. She typed back, you destroyed my grandmother's dress. 3 dots appeared. He was typing. I'll pay for the damage. Victoria wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the phone across the room. But instead, she typed calmly. You can't pay for some things, Derek. She blocked his number. Then she blocked Amber's number too. Then Helen's number. She blocked everyone connected to Derek until her contact list looked empty. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Her hand moved automatically. 3 times. Always 3 times. Hoping each time that maybe the messages would be different, that maybe this had all been a terrible dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was real. And 4 million people had watched her humiliation. Victoria turned her phone face down on the nightstand. She pulled the covers over her head, and for the first time since the church, she cried. The sobs came from somewhere deep inside. They racked her whole body. She cried for her grandmother's dress, for the wedding that never happened, for 3 years with a man who thought she was safe and predictable, for the fact that exciting, passionate Amber had won. Patricia appeared in the doorway. She didn't say anything. She just climbed into bed beside Victoria and held her while she cried. Every good memory was a lie, Victoria sobbed into her mother's shoulder. Every I love you was a countdown to this moment. Patricia stroked her hair. I know, baby, I know. How did I not see it? How did I miss 8 months of him being with her? Because you trusted him. Because that's what you do when you love someone. Victoria pulled back. Her face was wet with tears and snot. I'm never loving anyone again. Never. Don't say that. Why not? Look where love got me, standing in a torn dress while 4 million people laugh. Patricia cupped Victoria's face. Those people don't matter. What Derek did doesn't define you. You are not this moment. But Victoria felt like she was. She felt like this moment had become her entire identity. The girl who got dumped at the altar. The girl whose fiancé ripped her dress off for another woman. The girl who was safe. Predictable. Boring. She lay back down. Patricia stayed beside her, a solid, warm presence in the dark. Eventually, Victoria's sobs quieted. Her breathing slowed. She didn't sleep. She stared at the dark ceiling and wondered how she would ever face the world again. In the living room, she could hear Rachel talking quietly on the phone, making more calls, probably trying to salvage what was left of Victoria's life. But Victoria knew the truth. There was nothing left to salvage. Derek had made sure of that when he tore her dress off in front of God and everyone. She was ruined, completely and utterly ruined. And the worst part was, she still loved him. Despite everything, part of her still loved the man she thought he was. That was the part that hurt most of all. 3 days after the wedding that never happened, Victoria forced herself to get out of bed. Patricia had gone home the night before, reluctantly, after Victoria insisted she was fine. Rachel had left that morning for work, but promised to come back at lunchtime. Victoria stood in the kitchen in her pajamas, staring at the coffee maker. It was Derek's coffee maker. He had bought it last year because he needed French roast every morning, strong and black. She unplugged it and shoved it into the trash. The apartment felt full of ghosts. Derek's ghost haunted every corner, the couch where they used to watch movies, the kitchen table where they ate breakfast, the bedroom where he had made promises he never intended to keep. Victoria needed to cancel the honeymoon. They were supposed to leave for Maui tomorrow morning. 2 weeks at a beachfront resort. $15,000. She opened her laptop. Derek's email was still logged in. Victoria stared at the inbox. She should log out, respect his privacy. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the memory of that note he had left. You're safe, you're predictable. Or maybe it was the 4 million views on that video. The comments calling her terrible in bed. Saying Amber was hotter, she clicked on the inbox. The most recent email was from Amber. Sent yesterday. Subject line, "We did it, baby." Victoria's hand trembled on the mouse. She opened it. Derek, I can't believe we actually pulled it off. The look on her face was priceless. Did you see how she just stood there? I almost laughed. Your mom keeps calling me. I'm not answering. Let her calm down first. The video has gone insane. My friends keep sending me screenshots. We're famous. Come over tonight. I'll make it worth your while. You earned it after that performance. Love you. Victoria read it again. Then a third time. The look on her face was priceless. They had planned this. They had discussed it. They had anticipated her reaction and found it entertaining. Victoria felt something shift inside her, a cold clarity settling over the hurt. She scrolled down through Derek's sent emails. There, 6 weeks ago, an email to Amber. The wedding is in a month. I'm going through with it. I need to see the look on her face when I end it. She's been so smug about the wedding planning. So sure of herself, she needs to be knocked down a peg. Don't worry, it'll be worth the wait, trust me. Another email from 2 months ago. Victoria actually asked me to help her address the wedding invitations tonight. I almost laughed. She has no idea I'm planning to humiliate her in front of everyone she knows. Question: red dress or black dress? I want you to make an entrance. Amber's response: red, definitely red. Black is for funerals. Red is for stealing someone's man. Victoria's hands shook so hard she almost dropped the laptop. She kept scrolling, kept finding evidence. 3 months ago, I looked at engagement rings for you today, found a perfect one, 2 carats, princess cut, everything Victoria's isn't. I'll propose to you right after I end things with her. 4 months ago, Victoria asked why I've been distant lately. I told her I was stressed about work. She believed me immediately. She's so trusting, it's almost pathetic. 5 months ago, counted the joint savings account today. $47,000. That's all Victoria's money, by the way. She's been saving since she was 22. Once we're done, I'm moving it to my personal account. She won't notice until it's too late. Victoria stopped breathing. The joint savings account. The one they had opened when they got engaged. The one Victoria had been contributing to for years, while Derek claimed he needed his paychecks for his car payment and student loans. She logged into their bank account. Balance: $317. The withdrawal had been made 2 days ago, the day before the wedding. $46,683. Transferred to Derek's personal account. He had stolen her money. Victoria stood up so fast her chair fell over. She grabbed her phone and called Rachel. Tori, what's wrong? He stole from me. Derek stole my money, all of it, $47,000. What? Victoria explained about the emails, about the account, about everything. As she talked, her voice got louder, angrier. Rachel was quiet for a moment after Victoria finished. Then she said calmly, "You need a lawyer, right now, today." "I don't know any lawyers." "I do. Remember my neighbor, Maggie Sullivan? She's a divorce attorney. A good one. Let me call her." Victoria paced the apartment while Rachel made the call. She felt like her skin was too tight, like she might explode if she stood still. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Her hands moved automatically, checking her phone 3 times in a row. But this time she wasn't hoping to wake up from a nightmare. She was looking for more evidence, more proof of Derek's betrayal. She opened his social media. His page was set to private now, but she was still listed as a friend. She scrolled through his recent activity. He had posted a photo yesterday, him and Amber, both of them smiling, her head on his shoulder. The caption, "When you know you know," 600 comments, most of them supportive. "So happy for you guys. True love always wins. You both look amazing together." A few critical comments mixed in. "This is disgusting. You humiliated that poor woman. I hope karma gets you both." But they were drowned out by the positive ones. People actually supported him. They thought this was romantic. A man following his heart. A forbidden love finally allowed to bloom. Nobody cared that he had destroyed Victoria in the process. Rachel called back. "Maggie can see you in an hour. I'll pick you up." Victoria looked down at her pajamas. "I need to shower." "Then shower. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Victoria hung up and went to the bathroom. She turned the water as hot as it would go. She stood under the spray and scrubbed her skin until it was red and raw. She couldn't wash away the feeling of Derek's hands on her dress. Couldn't wash away the memory of that tearing sound. Couldn't wash away the 4 million people who had watched her humiliation. But she could do something. She could fight back. Victoria got dressed in real clothes for the first time in 3 days. Black pants, white blouse, her armor. The clothes she wore when she needed to be taken seriously. She dried her hair and pulled it back into a tight ponytail. Put on minimal makeup. Looked at herself in the mirror. She looked tired, drawn, older than 28. But she looked determined. Rachel arrived exactly on time. She took one look at Victoria and nodded approvingly. "Ready?" "Ready." The law office was downtown on the 7th floor of a granite building. The receptionist led them to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Maggie Sullivan stood when they entered. She was 45, with short silver hair and sharp green eyes. She wore a navy suit that probably cost more than Victoria's monthly rent. Victoria, she said, extending her hand. I've seen the video. I'm so sorry. Victoria shook her hand. Maggie's grip was firm, confident. Thank you for seeing me on short notice. Sit. Tell me everything. Victoria sat in the leather chair across from Maggie's desk. Rachel sat beside her, and Victoria started talking. She told Maggie about the wedding, about Derek ripping her dress, about Amber appearing in that red dress, about coming home to an empty apartment, about the note Derek had left. Then she told her about the emails she had found that morning, about the planned humiliation, about the stolen money. Maggie listened without interrupting. She took notes in a leather-bound notebook. When Victoria finished, Maggie set down her pen. Do you have proof of all this? She asked. I screenshotted the emails. I have the bank statements showing the transfer. Good, that's very good. Did Derek know you had access to his email? He usually logged out, but this time he forgot. Maggie smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a shark spotting blood in the water. Even better, what Derek did isn't just cruel, it's potentially criminal. Theft, fraud, and the premeditated nature makes it worse. What can I do? Victoria asked. We start with a civil suit. Sue him for the stolen money plus damages, emotional distress, reputational harm. The video going viral works in our favor. We can prove quantifiable damage. Rachel leaned forward. What about pressing criminal charges? That's up to the district attorney. But I have contacts there. I can make sure they see this evidence. Victoria felt something uncoil in her chest. Hope, maybe, or justice. She wasn't sure which. There's something else, Maggie said carefully. I did some checking this morning after Rachel called. Derek refinanced your apartment 3 months ago. What? He can't do that. It's my apartment. I inherited it from my grandmother. Is your name on the deed? Victoria's stomach dropped. I don't know. Derek handled all the paperwork after my grandmother died. He said it was too complicated for me to deal with while I was grieving. Maggie's expression darkened. We need to check that immediately. If he put his name on the deed without your knowledge, that's fraud. And if he refinanced, where did that money go? Victoria pulled out her phone. She logged into Derek's email again and searched for refinance. There, 3 months ago, an email from a mortgage company. Congratulations. Your refinance on the property at 12 Oak Street has been approved. The funds have been deposited into your account. The amount, $85,000. Victoria showed the email to Maggie. The lawyer's eyes went cold. He stole your house, Maggie said quietly. He stole your inheritance, refinanced it, and pocketed the money. The room spun. Victoria gripped the arms of the chair. That was my grandmother's house. She left it to me. Just me. Did you ever sign refinance papers? No, never. Then he forged your signature. That's felony fraud. Maggie stood and paced to the window. Victoria, I need you to understand something. What Derek did isn't just a bad breakup. He systematically planned your financial destruction. This was calculated. But why? Victoria's voice broke. If he wanted to leave, he could have just left. Why take everything? Maggie turned back to her. Control, punishment. Some men can't stand the idea of an ex-partner being okay after they leave. They need to burn everything down. Rachel took Victoria's hand. What's our next move? I file an emergency motion tomorrow morning. We freeze all of Derek's assets, his bank accounts, his credit cards, everything. Then we start building the case. Maggie sat back down. I'm going to be honest with you, Victoria. This is going to be ugly. Derek will fight back, and it'll be very public. The media attention from that video means reporters will follow this case. I don't care, Victoria said. I want him to pay for what he did. Good, because we're not just divorcing him, we're destroying him. Maggie opened a file on her computer. Now, I need you to walk me through every joint account, every shared asset, everything with both your names on it. We're going to document everything he's taken from you. They spent the next 2 hours going through Victoria's financial life. Every bank account, every credit card, the apartment, the car, the furniture. Derek had taken or emptied most of it. The car was gone, sold 2 weeks ago. Derek had told Victoria it was getting detailed as a surprise for their honeymoon. Another lie, 3 credit cards maxed out in Victoria's name, all opened in the last 6 months, $37,000 in debt she never knew existed. Victoria felt numb by the time they finished. Derek hadn't just left her, he had systematically dismantled her entire life while planning their wedding. One more thing, Maggie said. Amber Collins, the mistress. Do you know anything about her background? Victoria shrugged. She was my yoga instructor. She seemed nice. We talked about normal things, the weather, recipes. She borrowed my kitchen one time when her oven broke. Rachel's head snapped up. She borrowed your kitchen? Yeah, about 2 months ago. She said she was catering a party and her oven died. I wasn't home, but Derek let her in. Why? Maggie and Rachel exchanged looks. What? Victoria asked. She was inside your home, Maggie said slowly, with Derek while you weren't there. Were there other times like that? Victoria thought back. Derek said she stopped by sometimes to drop off yoga schedules or to pick up equipment she'd left behind after our sessions. How often? I don't know. Once a week, maybe? Derek handled it. He said it was no big deal. Maggie wrote something in her notebook. I'm going to look into Amber, see if she has a history of this kind of thing. What kind of thing? Targeting engaged or married men. Some women make a sport of it. Victoria's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. A text from an unknown number. You should have kept him satisfied. This is your own fault. Then another text. Another unknown number. I saw the video. You look pathetic. No wonder he left. Another text. You're going to die alone and everyone knows it. Victoria's hands shook. She showed the messages to Maggie. The lawyer's mouth pressed into a thin line. The video is bringing out the worst in people. Block these numbers. Don't engage. But the messages kept coming, one after another. Different numbers. All saying variations of the same thing. That Victoria deserved what happened. That she was pathetic. That Derek was right to leave her. Rachel grabbed the phone and turned it off. That's enough for today. Let's get you home. Victoria stood on shaky legs. Thank you, Maggie. I'll file the emergency motion first thing tomorrow. In the meantime, don't talk to Derek. Don't respond to any messages from him or Amber. And don't talk to reporters. I won't. They left the office. In the elevator, Rachel put her arm around Victoria. You okay? I don't know what I am anymore. You're angry. That's good. Angry is better than broken. Victoria leaned against the elevator wall. He didn't just humiliate me. He planned this. He wanted to destroy me. I know. Every good memory was a lie. Every I love you was a countdown to this moment. Rachel was quiet. Then she said softly, maybe not every memory. Maybe some of it was real at the beginning. But somewhere along the way, he changed, or maybe you never really knew him at all. The elevator doors opened. They walked through the lobby and out onto the street. The September afternoon was warm. People hurried past on the sidewalk, busy with their own lives. None of them recognized Victoria as the woman from the viral video. She was just another person in a crowd, anonymous, invisible. Maybe that was better. Rachel drove Victoria home. The reporters were gone from outside her building. That was something at least. Do you want me to stay? Rachel asked. No, I'll be okay. You sure? Yeah, I need to be alone for a bit. Rachel hugged her tight. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all, I mean it. I will, thank you. Victoria went up to her apartment. It was still half empty. Derek's ghost still haunted every corner. But now Victoria felt something different. Not just hurt, not just humiliation. Something harder, colder, anger. Derek thought he had destroyed her. He thought she would crumble. He thought she was safe and predictable and would just accept what he had done. He was wrong. Victoria opened her laptop. She saved all the screenshots from Derek's email to a secure folder. She documented every stolen dollar, every forged signature, every calculated lie. She wasn't just going to survive this. She was going to make sure Derek regretted ever meeting her. The sun set outside her window, painting the city in shades of orange and red, the same colors as Amber's dress. Victoria watched the sunset and felt her heart harden into something new. Something Derek wouldn't recognize. Something he should have been afraid of all along. 2 weeks after the wedding that never happened, Victoria sat in Maggie Sullivan's conference room surrounded by documents, bank statements, credit card bills, emails, screenshots, medical records showing her stress-induced insomnia and anxiety. Witness statements from wedding guests who had filmed Derek's betrayal. Maggie stood at the head of the table, organizing everything into neat piles. She wore a charcoal gray suit today. War paint. The emergency motion was approved, Maggie said. As of this morning, all of Derek's assets are frozen, his bank accounts, his credit cards, his car, everything. Victoria felt a flicker of satisfaction. What did he say? His lawyer called me screaming. Apparently, Derek was trying to buy groceries when his card was declined, in front of a line of people. Maggie smiled. I told his lawyer that's unfortunate. Rachel, who had taken the day off work to be here, laughed. I wish I could have seen his face. There's more, Maggie said. My investigator looked into Amber Collins. She has a history. 3 other men in the past 5 years, all engaged or newly married when she targeted them. In one case, she convinced the man to leave his pregnant wife. Victoria's stomach turned. So this is what she does. Looks like it. She moves to a new city every few years, works as a fitness instructor. Yoga, Pilates, personal training, gets close to wealthy men through classes or sessions, breaks up their relationships, then moves on when the money runs out. What happened to the other men? Victoria asked. 2 of them tried to sue her for fraud. Lost. It's hard to prove. The 3rd one committed suicide. The room went silent. Victoria stared at the documents spread across the table. She does this on purpose. She destroys people on purpose. Yes, and Derek helped her do it to you. A knock on the conference room door. Maggie's assistant poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt. Derek Harrison is here. He's demanding to see Victoria. Maggie's eyes narrowed. Did he have an appointment? No, he just showed up. He's pretty agitated. Have security ready. I'll handle this. Maggie looked at Victoria. Do you want to see him? Victoria's first instinct was to say no, to hide, to avoid confrontation. But then she remembered the emails, the planned humiliation, the stolen money, the refinanced house. She thought about Amber's text. The look on her face was priceless. Yes, Victoria said, I want to see him. Maggie nodded. Okay, but I'm setting rules. He doesn't get to yell. He doesn't get to make demands. If he gets aggressive, security escorts him out. Understood? Understood. Rachel, stay with her. I'll go get him. Maggie left. Rachel moved her chair closer to Victoria's. You don't have to do this. I know, but I want to. Okay, but if he starts his manipulation bullshit, I'm shutting it down. Deal. The door opened. Derek walked in. Victoria hadn't seen him since the church. He looked different, older, tired. He wore jeans and a wrinkled shirt. His hair needed cutting. His eyes found Victoria's. She saw something in his face. Desperation. Panic. Good. Victoria, he said. His voice cracked. We need to talk. My client has nothing to say to you, Maggie said crisply. You can speak with me, through your lawyer. That's how this works. I don't want to talk to lawyers. I want to talk to Victoria. Please, 5 minutes. Maggie looked at Victoria, raised an eyebrow. Your call. Victoria nodded slightly. Fine, Maggie said. 5 minutes. I'm staying. Rachel is staying. And you're going to keep your voice calm and respectful. Derek pulled out a chair and sat down. He looked at Victoria across the conference table. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake. Victoria said nothing. The thing at the church, Derek continued. I wasn't thinking clearly. Amber had me all confused. She made me think I wanted something different, something exciting, but I was wrong. My client's accounts have been drained, Maggie said. Her house was refinanced without her knowledge. Are you sorry about that too? Derek's jaw clenched. The money was in a joint account. I had every right to. You stole $47,000 that my client saved over 6 years. You forged her signature on refinance documents. Those are crimes, Mr. Harrison. I didn't forge anything. Victoria must have signed something and forgotten about it. She was always signing papers without reading them. Victoria felt heat rise in her chest. That's not true. Derek turned to her eagerly. See? We can talk about this. We can work it out. You don't need lawyers. We can handle this between us. No, Victoria said quietly. We can't. Why not? We were together for 3 years. That has to mean something. It meant something, Victoria said, until you ripped my dress off in front of 200 people. I wasn't thinking straight, I told you. Amber manipulated me. She said she was pregnant, said I had to choose between her and you. But she lied. She wasn't pregnant. She lied about everything. Maggie made a note. So Amber Collins told you she was pregnant? Derek realized his mistake. That's not, I mean, answer the question, Maggie said. Did Amber Collins claim to be pregnant to manipulate you into leaving my client? She might have mentioned it, but I don't know if she was serious. Was that before or after you withdrew $47,000 from my client's account? Derek's face flushed. Before, but that's not related. I think it is. I think you were planning to run off with Amber and needed cash, so you stole Victoria's money. It wasn't stealing, it was a joint account. Maggie smiled coldly. The court will decide that. Now you said you made a mistake at the church. Let's be specific. Which part was the mistake? Betraying my client? Humiliating her publicly? Or getting caught? Derek stood up. I'm not going to sit here and be attacked by some lawyer. Victoria, can we please talk alone? No, Victoria said. Please, I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. You don't love me. You never loved me. That's not true. Victoria pulled up one of the emails on her phone. She read it aloud. Victoria actually asked me to help her address the wedding invitations tonight. I almost laughed. She has no idea I'm planning to humiliate her in front of everyone she knows. Victoria looked up. You sent that to Amber 2 months before the wedding. When did you stop loving me, Derek? Before or after you planned my public humiliation? Derek's face went white. Did you read my emails? You left yourself logged in. That's illegal. That's invasion of privacy. Maggie laughed. No, Mr. Harrison, what's illegal is fraud, theft, and forgery, all of which you committed. My client reading emails on her own computer is perfectly legal. Derek looked at Victoria. You're really going to do this? You're going to sue me? Yes. I'll lose everything. You should have thought of that before you destroyed my grandmother's dress. Derek's expression changed, hardened. You know what? Fine. Sue me. Take me to court. But Amber was right about you. You're cold. You're boring. You're the kind of woman men leave. Rachel stood up. That's enough. Get out. I'm not done talking. Yes, you are. Security, Maggie called. 2 uniformed guards appeared in the doorway. Derek backed toward the door. You're going to regret this, Victoria. When you're 40 and alone, you're going to remember this moment. You're going to remember that I offered you a second chance and you threw it away. I'm not crazy, Victoria said, her voice steady. This was calculated, planned. You wanted to break me, but I'm not broken. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who you are. The guards escorted Derek out. His voice echoed down the hallway. This isn't over. Victoria, this isn't over. When the door closed, Victoria's hands started shaking. The adrenaline drained out of her all at once, leaving her hollow. Rachel hugged her tight. You were amazing. So strong. I don't feel strong. I feel sick. Maggie sat back down. That was good. Very good. He admitted that Amber claimed to be pregnant. He admitted he took money before the wedding. And he threatened you, which I recorded. She tapped her phone. All useful. What happens now? Victoria asked. Now we schedule a deposition. We put him under oath and make him answer every question. His lawyer will try to coach him, but with this evidence, there's not much they can do. When? 2 weeks, maybe sooner. I'll push for sooner. Maggie gathered the documents. In the meantime, don't engage with him. Don't respond to messages. Don't talk to mutual friends about the case. Victoria nodded. Okay. That evening, Victoria's mother came over with dinner. Lasagna. Victoria's favorite, and they ate in the mostly empty living room. Victoria had started replacing Derek's furniture. A new couch, a small coffee table, things that were hers, not theirs. I saw Helen Harrison at the grocery store today, Patricia said. Victoria looked up. Derek's mom? Yes, she tried to talk to me. What did she say? Patricia's mouth pressed into a thin line. She said you're being unreasonable, that Derek made a mistake, but he deserves forgiveness, that you're ruining his life over one bad decision. One bad decision? That's what she called it, one bad decision, as if systematically planning to humiliate and financially destroy you was equivalent to forgetting to take out the trash. Victoria set down her fork. What did you tell her? I told her that her son is lucky you're only suing him civilly, that if I had my way he'd be in jail. Then I told her to never speak to me again. A smile tugged at Victoria's lips. Really? Really? And I said it loud enough for the whole store to hear. Patricia reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. I never liked him. Your father would have seen right through him from the start. Victoria's father had died when she was 15. A heart attack. Quick and unexpected. He had been a tough man, but fair, loving in his quiet way. Dad would have killed him, Victoria said softly. Your father would have made Derek wish he was dead. There's a difference. They finished dinner in comfortable silence. Afterward, Patricia helped Victoria wash dishes. Are you sleeping any better? Patricia asked. Not really. I keep having nightmares about the church, about that tearing sound, about everyone watching. Have you thought about talking to someone, a therapist? Maggie suggested it, said it would help the case if I had documented emotional distress. Forget the case. I'm talking about you, your mental health. Victoria dried a plate slowly. I'm afraid if I start talking about it, I'll fall apart completely. And I can't fall apart right now. I need to stay focused, stay angry. You can be angry and still get help, sweetheart. Maybe after this is over, after the deposition, after Derek pays for what he did. Patricia sighed but didn't push. They finished the dishes and moved to the couch. Patricia had brought over a photo album, old pictures from when Victoria was young. I thought you might want to remember who you were before Derek, Patricia said, opening the album. There was Victoria at 7, missing her 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera. Victoria at 12, awkward and gangly, at her first dance recital. Victoria at 18, graduating high school, looking proud and hopeful. You were so full of life, Patricia said softly. So confident. What happened to that girl? Victoria stared at the photos. Derek happened. 3 years of him telling me I was too loud, too emotional, too much. I made myself smaller to make him comfortable. And now? Now I don't know who I am anymore. I'm not the girl in these photos, but I'm not who Derek wanted me to be either. Patricia closed the album. Then maybe it's time to figure out who you want to be, not who you were, not who Derek wanted, who Victoria Matthews wants to become. Victoria leaned against her mother's shoulder. I want to be someone who can't be broken. Someone who looks at a man like Derek and laughs because he has no power over me. You'll get there, but it takes time. That night after Patricia left, Victoria couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the same ceiling Derek had stared at for 3 years while planning her destruction. She got up and went to the living room, opened her laptop, started going through the house listings online. She couldn't stay in this apartment. Too many memories, too many ghosts. She needed somewhere new, somewhere Derek had never been, somewhere that was entirely hers. She found a small place across town. 1 bedroom, 7th floor, lots of windows. The listing said it had been recently renovated. Clean slate. Victoria sent an inquiry to the landlord. Then she started looking at furniture. Not expensive furniture, just functional. A bed, a table, chairs. Everything Derek had never touched. As the sun rose, painting the sky pink and gold, Victoria felt something shift inside her. A small spark. Not quite hope. Not yet. But possibility. Derek had tried to destroy her. He had taken her money, her home, her dignity. He had planned it all carefully, maliciously. But he had made one critical mistake. He had underestimated her capacity to survive. And that mistake was going to cost him everything. 2 months after the wedding disaster, Victoria sat in a cold deposition room listening to Derek lie under oath. The room was gray. Everything was gray. Gray walls, gray table, gray chairs. Even the light filtering through the blinds looked gray. Derek's lawyer, a man named Howard Chen, sat beside him looking uncomfortable. Across the table, Maggie Sullivan watched Derek like a hawk watching a field mouse. Victoria sat beside Maggie taking notes. Every lie, every evasion, every time Derek's story didn't match the evidence. "Mr. Harrison," Maggie said calmly, "you stated that you didn't plan to humiliate Miss Matthews at the wedding. Is that correct?" "Yes, it was a spontaneous decision." "Spontaneous?" "Yes." Maggie slid a document across the table. "This is an email you sent to Amber Collins, dated 6 weeks before the wedding. Would you read the highlighted portion aloud, please?" Derek picked up the paper. His hands shook slightly. I don't remember writing this." "It's your email address. Your words. Read it." Derek's lawyer interjected. "My client doesn't have to." "Yes, he does. It's a deposition. He's under oath. Read it, Mr. Harrison." Derek cleared his throat. His voice was barely audible. "I'm going through with the wedding. I need to see the look on her face when I end it." "Louder, please, for the record." Derek's face flushed red. "I said I'm going through with the wedding. I need to see the look on her face when I end it." "That doesn't sound spontaneous to me," Maggie said. "That sounds premeditated." "I was angry when I wrote that. I didn't mean it." "You were angry at Miss Matthews, your fiancée, the woman you claim to love. What was she doing that made you so angry?" "I don't remember." Maggie pulled out another document. "This email was sent the same day. You wrote to Amber, 'Victoria asked me to help her with wedding thank you notes today. She's so excited about the wedding. It's pathetic. I can't wait to see her face when I destroy all of it.' Does that refresh your memory?" Victoria watched Derek's face. She had loved that face once. Kissed it. Trusted it. Now it just made her sick. "I was going through a difficult time," Derek said. "Work was stressful. I wasn't thinking clearly." "Were you thinking clearly when you withdrew $47,000 from Miss Matthews' savings account? That was a joint account. I had every right to answer the question. Was your thinking clear when you took that money?" "Yes." "And was your thinking clear when you refinanced Miss Matthews' home without her knowledge?" Howard Chen interrupted again. "My client maintains that Miss Matthews signed those documents." "Where are the documents?" Maggie asked. "If she signed them, there should be copies with her signature." The mortgage company provided electronic signatures. Electronic signatures require verification, email confirmation, security codes. Miss Matthews never received any of those. So either your client forged her signature or he's lying about the refinance. Derek shifted in his seat. Maybe Victoria forgot. She forgets a lot of things. Victoria felt Rachel's hand squeeze her shoulder. Rachel had insisted on coming, even though she couldn't participate in the deposition. She sat behind Victoria, a silent support. Maggie leaned forward. "Let's talk about Amber Collins. When did you meet her?" "About a year ago. She was Victoria's yoga instructor." "And when did your relationship with Miss Collins become romantic?" 8 months ago, like I told Victoria." "Did Miss Collins ever claim to be pregnant?" Derek hesitated. "She might have mentioned it." "Might have mentioned it. Yes or no, Mr. Harrison? Did Amber Collins tell you she was pregnant?" "Yes." "When?" "2 months before the wedding." "And did you believe her?" "Yes, at first." "At first? When did you stop believing her?" Derek looked at his lawyer. Howard Chen nodded reluctantly. "About a week after the wedding," Derek admitted. "She told me she had a miscarriage, but there was never any medical proof, no doctor's appointments, nothing. So you left Miss Matthews, destroyed her grandmother's wedding dress, stole her money and refinanced her home because Amber Collins claimed to be pregnant. Then you discovered she was lying. Is that correct?" "It's more complicated than that." "Please explain how it's more complicated." Derek's voice rose. "I loved Amber. I still love her. Victoria was never right for me. She was too clingy, too needy. I felt suffocated." "Too needy." Maggie, can you give me an example of Miss Matthews being needy?" She wanted to spend time together. She wanted to talk about feelings. She wanted me to help plan the wedding. She wanted her fiancé to participate in their wedding planning. How unreasonable. You're twisting my words. I'm repeating your words, Mr. Harrison. Maggie pulled out another stack of documents. Let's discuss your finances. You told Miss Matthews you needed your entire paycheck for your car payment and student loans. Is that correct? Yes. But you paid off your student loans 3 years ago, didn't you? Silence. Mr. Harrison, you paid off your student loans 3 years ago, before you met Miss Matthews, yes or no? Yes. And your car payment is $300 a month, not the $1,500 you claimed, correct? Yes. So where was the rest of your money going? Derek's face went red. That's my business. Actually, it's this court's business now. Where was the money going? Howard Chen whispered something to Derek. Derek shook his head, whispered back. Mr. Harrison, the court reporter said, you need to answer verbally for the record. Derek took a deep breath. I was buying gifts for Amber, taking her on trips. We went to Miami twice, New York once. I bought her jewelry, clothes, whatever she wanted. And who paid for these trips? I did. With money you told Miss Matthews you needed for bills. Yes. Victoria felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. She had eaten ramen noodles for dinner 3 nights a week so they could save money. She had taken the bus instead of using her car to save on gas. She had worn the same clothes year after year, and Derek had been flying Amber to Miami. Maggie wasn't done. Did you ever bring Amber Collins to Miss Matthews' home? Sometimes. Victoria was okay with it. Was Miss Matthews home during these visits? Pause. Not always. So you brought your mistress into your fiancé's home while she was at work. Did you and Miss Collins engage in sexual activity in Miss Matthews' bed? Howard Chen objected. That's irrelevant and inappropriate. It's absolutely relevant. This speaks to the degree of betrayal and emotional harm my client suffered. Answer the question, Mr. Harrison. Derek looked at the table. Yes. Victoria's vision blurred. She had wondered. Of course she had wondered, but hearing Derek admit it made it real. Rachel's hand tightened on her shoulder. How many times? Maggie asked. I don't know. Several. More than 5? Yes. More than 10? Probably. Did you ever use Miss Matthews' kitchen to cook meals for Amber Collins? A few times. Amber liked to cook. So Amber Collins, your mistress, used my client's kitchen, ate her food, slept in her bed, all while Miss Matthews was working to support both of you. And you saw nothing wrong with this? I see now that it was wrong. I'm sorry. You're sorry. When did you become sorry, Mr. Harrison? Before or after your assets were frozen? Derek's jaw clenched. I've always been sorry. Yet you made no attempt to return the stolen money. You made no attempt to apologize until you needed something from Miss Matthews. Tell me, are you still with Amber Collins? No, we broke up. When? 3 weeks ago. Why did you break up? Derek looked at his hands. She left me, said I didn't have enough money anymore. She found someone else. Someone wealthier. Yes. So Amber Collins used you for money, then discarded you when you were no longer useful. Do you see any parallels between what she did to you and what you did to Miss Matthews? That's different. How is it different? I loved Amber. She was just there. Victoria felt like she had been slapped. 3 years together, and she was just there. Background noise in Derek's life, while he played out his romance with someone more exciting. Maggie's voice went cold. Just there. Miss Matthews supported you financially for 3 years. She planned a wedding. She introduced you to her family and friends. She trusted you with her grandmother's home, and she was just there. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it, Mr. Harrison? I meant that Victoria was comfortable, safe, but I wanted more. I wanted passion. And you thought publicly humiliating her was a passionate way to end things. I wasn't thinking about her feelings. I was thinking about mine. Finally, an honest answer. Maggie made a note. Let's discuss the wedding itself. Who bought Amber Collins' red dress? I did. With money from Miss Matthews' account? Long pause. Pause. Yes. So you used your fiance's money to buy your mistress a dress to wear to your wedding. And then you tore off your fiance's wedding dress in front of 200 witnesses. Do you understand why Miss Matthews might feel you deliberately set out to destroy her? I see now that it looks bad. It looks bad. Mr. Harrison, this deposition has established that you lied to Miss Matthews repeatedly, stole at least $47,000 from her, forged her signature on legal documents, brought your mistress into her home, used her bed, and then publicly humiliated her at your wedding. Would you say that accurately sums up your actions? Howard Chen objected. Counselor, this is argumentative. Withdrawn. Maggie checked her notes. One final question. If you could go back, would you do anything differently? Derek looked directly at Victoria for the first time during the deposition. His eyes were red. His face was haggard. I would never have met Amber, he said quietly. I would have married Victoria. I would have been grateful for what I had. I destroyed the best thing in my life, and I will regret it every day for the rest of my life. Victoria felt nothing. His words were empty. Too little, too late. He didn't regret hurting her. He regretted losing his comfortable life. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, Maggie said. No further questions. The deposition ended. Derek and his lawyer left through one door while Victoria, Maggie, and Rachel left through another. In the elevator, Rachel finally spoke. He admitted everything. He had to, Maggie said. The evidence was overwhelming. His lawyer probably advised him that lying would make things worse. What happens now? Victoria asked. Now we go to trial. Or more likely, Derek's lawyer will push for a settlement. They know they can't win. Victoria looked at herself in the elevator's mirrored wall. She had lost weight. Her clothes hung loose. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she looked stronger somehow. Harder. I don't want a settlement, she said. I want a trial. I want everyone to hear what he did. Maggie studied her. A trial means more publicity, more stress. Are you sure? I'm sure he planned my public humiliation. I want his too. Okay, then we'll go to trial. They reached the parking garage. Maggie said goodbye and headed to her car. Rachel walked Victoria to her car. You were amazing in there, Rachel said. You didn't cry once. I'm done crying over Derek. Are you really, or are you just numb? Victoria unlocked her car. Maybe both. Rachel hugged her. Call me tonight. Promise. I promise. Victoria drove home to her new apartment, the one Derek had never seen. The one she had furnished herself with money from her paycheck in a small loan from her mother. It was small, the furniture was cheap, but it was hers. She made herself dinner, pasta with butter and cheese. Simple, easy. She ate standing at the kitchen counter, watching the sun set over the city. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the video again today. Still can't believe any man would marry you in the first place. Victoria blocked the number without responding. There were always more messages, more cruelty. The video had made her a target for everyone's worst impulses, but she was getting better at ignoring them. She washed her one plate, her one fork, cleaned the counter, wiped down the stove. Then she sat on her cheap couch in her small apartment and did what she had been putting off for 2 months. She cried. Not for Derek, not for the wedding, not for the life she had planned. She cried for the girl she used to be, the one in her mother's photo album. Full of life, confident, unbroken. She cried because she didn't know if she could ever be that girl again. And she cried because, despite everything, a small part of her still loved the man she thought Derek was, the man who never existed. That was the hardest truth of all. The person she had loved was a fiction, a character Derek had played to get what he wanted. And Victoria had believed in that character so completely that losing him felt like losing a part of herself. Outside, the city lights flickered on. Life continued. People fell in love. People got married. People were happy. And Victoria sat alone in her small apartment, crying for ghosts. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Her hand moved automatically. 3 times. Always 3 times. Checking her phone for messages that would make everything better. Messages that never came. Tomorrow she would be strong again. Tomorrow she would be angry and determined. But tonight she let herself grieve. For the life she had wanted. for the man who never existed, for the parts of herself she could never get back. Tomorrow she would fight. Tonight she would mourn. 4 months after the wedding that never was, Victoria hit rock bottom. She stood in the bathroom of her small apartment at 3 in the morning, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She had been avoiding mirrors for weeks, but tonight insomnia and restlessness had driven her from bed. The woman staring back at her was a stranger. Hollow cheeks, dull eyes, skin pale and papery, hair that needed washing. She had lost 20 pounds. Her clothes hung on her like she was a child playing dress-up in adult clothing. When had she stopped recognizing herself? Victoria turned away from the mirror. She went to the kitchen and opened her laptop. 3 in the morning meant the rest of the world was asleep. This was her time. The quiet hours when she could search without judgment. She typed into the search bar. How long and until people forget the first result was about grief. How to help someone who has lost a loved one. Not what she was looking for. She tried again. Why did he hate me? Results about domestic violence, signs of an abusive relationship, articles about narcissistic partners. None of it helped. None of it explained why Derek had wanted to destroy her so completely. One more search. Can you die from humiliation? The results were clinical. Articles about stress, about anxiety, about how public humiliation affects the brain and body. One article mentioned that severe emotional trauma could trigger heart attacks in vulnerable individuals. Victoria closed the laptop. She sat in the dark kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. She had lost her job 3 weeks ago. The attention from the viral video had been too much. Clients didn't want to work with that woman from the wedding video. Her boss had been apologetic but firm. They had to let her go. She was living on savings and her mother's small monthly contributions. The legal battle with Derek was draining her bank account despite Maggie's reduced fees. She couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. The grocery store, the pharmacy, the coffee shop on the corner. Someone always whispered, always pointed, always pulled out their phone to take a picture. Yesterday, a teenage girl had approached her in the produce section. "Oh my God, you're the wedding dress girl. Can I get a selfie?" Victoria had said no and left her cart in the middle of the aisle. She had driven home and hadn't left the apartment since. Her phone sat on the counter, face down. She hadn't checked it in hours. Couldn't bear to see more messages from strangers telling her she deserved what happened, that she was pathetic, that she should disappear. Sometimes in her darkest moments, she thought about doing exactly that, just disappearing, leaving the city, changing her name, starting over somewhere no one knew her story. But even that felt impossible. The video was everywhere. It would follow her no matter where she went. Victoria went to the living room window. Her apartment was on the 7th floor, high enough to see the city spread out below her, lights twinkling in the darkness like fallen stars. She wondered what people in those other apartments were doing, sleeping peacefully next to their partners, waking up without shame or fear, living normal lives. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass, closed her eyes. She wasn't suicidal, not exactly. But she understood now how people could reach that point, how the weight of humiliation and shame could become unbearable, how the idea of simply not existing anymore could seem like relief. Her therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, had asked her last week if she was having thoughts of self-harm. Victoria had said no. It wasn't technically a lie. She wasn't planning anything. But the thoughts came sometimes. Intrusive, unwanted. What if she just stepped in front of a bus? What if she took all the sleeping pills in her medicine cabinet? What if she never woke up from one of these endless nights? The thoughts scared her, but not as much as they should have. Her phone buzzed. Victoria ignored it. Probably another message from a stranger. Another news outlet requesting an interview. Another person telling her she was better off without Derek while secretly judging her for being left. It buzzed again and again. Finally, Victoria picked it up. 3 messages from Rachel. "I know you're awake. I can tell when you're having a bad night. I'm coming over. Don't try to stop me." 20 minutes later, Rachel's knock echoed through the apartment. Victoria opened the door. Rachel took one look at her and pushed inside, carrying a bag from the 24-hour diner down the street. "When did you last eat?" Rachel demanded. "I don't remember." "That's what I thought." Rachel unpacked the bag. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, hash browns. Enough food for 3 people. Sit, eat. I'm not hungry. I don't care. You're disappearing, Tori. Well, literally disappearing. Patricia called me crying yesterday because she saw you and you look like a ghost. Victoria sat, picked up a fork, pushed eggs around her plate. Rachel sat across from her. Talk to me. What's going on in your head? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Are you taking your medication? Most days. Most days isn't good enough. You need to take it every day. That's what the doctor said. What's the point? The pills don't make people forget a video. They don't make Derek unruin my life. They just make me feel numb. Rachel reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. The pills keep you alive. Numb is better than what I'm seeing right now. Victoria pulled her hand away. I'm fine. You're not fine. You've been sitting in this apartment for 3 weeks. You're not eating. You're not sleeping. You're not answering calls. Patricia found you asleep in your car outside your old apartment building last week. You don't even live there anymore. Victoria had forgotten about that. She had driven to the old building without thinking, sat in the parking lot for hours. Eventually, she must have fallen asleep. Patricia had been driving by and recognized her car. I don't remember doing that, Victoria admitted. Rachel's expression shifted from angry to frightened. Tori, you need to tell Dr. Chen about this. What you're describing sounds like dissociation. I'm just tired. No, you're depressed, severely, and you need more help than I can give you. Victoria looked at her plate. The eggs had gone cold. She pushed them away. I don't want to be one of those people who falls apart after a breakup. It's so pathetic. This wasn't a breakup. This was a systematic betrayal that went viral. 4 million people watched your worst moment. That's trauma, Tori, real trauma. Other people have worse trauma and they cope. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Your pain is valid even if someone else has it worse. Victoria felt tears building. She blinked them back. I keep thinking about that moment. When Derek ripped my dress, if I had just done something different that morning, worn a different dress, said something different, maybe he wouldn't have done it. Rachel's voice sharpened. Stop. That's not how this works. Derek didn't humiliate you because of anything you did or didn't do. He did it because he's cruel, because something is broken in him, not in you, in him. Then why does it feel like I'm the one who's broken? Because that's what trauma does. It makes you internalize other people's cruelty. It makes you believe you deserved it. But you didn't, Tori. You didn't deserve any of this. Victoria finally let the tears fall. They ran down her cheeks, hot and shameful. Part of me still loves who I thought he was. How messed up is that? After everything he did, I still miss him. Or I miss the version of him I thought existed. Rachel moved around the table and wrapped Victoria in a hug. That's not messed up. That's human. You love someone. That person turned out to be a lie, but your love was real. Grief doesn't follow logic. They sat like that for a long time. Victoria crying into Rachel's shoulder while Rachel held her and made soothing sounds. Eventually, Victoria pulled back, wiped her face with her sleeve. I'm sorry, I'm a mess. You're allowed to be a mess, but you can't do this alone anymore. Promise me you'll call Dr. Chen tomorrow. Ask about inpatient treatment. Inpatient? Like a psychiatric hospital? Like a treatment center where you can get intensive help, where you're not alone 24/7, where professionals can monitor you and make sure you are safe. I don't need that. I'm not suicidal. Maybe not, but you're not okay, Tori, and I'm scared. Patricia is scared. Dr. Chen is probably scared too, even if she's too professional to say it. Victoria looked at the food Rachel had brought, all that nourishment sitting there growing cold. She should eat it. She should take care of herself. She should do a lot of things. But the weight of everything felt crushing, insurmountable. I'm so tired, she whispered. I'm tired of fighting, tired of pretending I'm okay, tired of waking up every morning and remembering all over again what happened. I know, but you keep fighting anyway because that's what we do. We survive. What if I don't want to survive? What if I just want it to stop? Rachel's hands gripped Victoria's shoulders. She looked directly into her eyes. Then you call me. Right then, in that moment, before you do anything, you call me. Do you understand? Victoria nodded slowly. Okay, promise me. Say the words. I promise. Rachel made Victoria eat half a pancake and some eggs. Then she helped her to bed and stayed until Victoria fell asleep. Victoria dreamed of the church, of Derek's hands on her dress, of the tearing sound echoing forever, of Amber in her red dress, laughing and laughing and laughing. She woke at dawn, gasping. Rachel was asleep in the armchair, her neck at an awkward angle. Victoria got up quietly. She went to the bathroom and finally forced herself to look in the mirror again. The stranger stared back, broken, haunted, but alive, still alive. She thought about what Rachel had said, about inpatient treatment, about getting more help. The idea terrified her. Admitting she needed that level of care meant admitting how far she had fallen. But maybe Rachel was right. Maybe she couldn't do this alone anymore. Victoria picked up her phone, scrolled to Dr. Chen's office number. It was too early to call, but she sent an email instead. Dr. Chen, I need to talk about more intensive treatment options. I'm not doing well. I don't feel safe anymore. Can we schedule an emergency session? Victoria. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she sat on the edge of the bathtub and cried again. For the woman she used to be, for the woman she was now, for the monotone hard road ahead. But somewhere beneath the tears, beneath the exhaustion, beneath the shame, something small and stubborn refused to die. The worst part wasn't that Derek left her. The worst part was that she had stayed so long after she knew something was wrong. She had ignored the signs, dismissed the warnings, made excuses. She had betrayed herself long before Derek betrayed her. And that was the part she had to forgive. Not Derek, not Amber, not the strangers who sent cruel messages. Herself. She had to forgive herself for not seeing, for not leaving, for believing in someone who didn't deserve her trust. That was the work ahead. The hard, painful, necessary work. Victoria stood up, splashed cold water on her face, looked at the stranger in the mirror one more time. You're going to survive this, she told her reflection. I don't know how, but you will. The stranger didn't look convinced, but she was still there, still breathing, still fighting even when it felt impossible. And for now, that was enough. 6 months after her world ended, Victoria walked into a pottery class. The studio was in a converted warehouse downtown, high ceilings with exposed beams, large windows letting in afternoon light. The smell of clay and kiln fire hung in the air, earthy and clean. Rachel had dragged her here. Literally. Victoria had resisted. She didn't want to meet new people, didn't want to risk being recognized, didn't want to leave the safety of her apartment. But Dr. Chen had been clear during their last session. Depression thrives in isolation. You need to engage with the world again. Start small, a class, a hobby, something that gets you out of your head. So here she was, standing in the doorway of a pottery studio, her heart pounding, palms sweating. Come on, Rachel whispered. You promised you'd try. Victoria stepped inside. 10 other people sat around a large table covered with lumps of clay and tools. They looked up as Victoria and Rachel entered. Victoria's stomach clenched, waiting for the recognition, the whispers, the phones coming out, but no one seemed to know who she was. They smiled politely and went back to their conversations. You must be Rachel and Victoria, a man said, approaching them. He was tall, maybe mid-30s, with kind hazel eyes and clay-stained hands. I'm James Mitchell. I teach the class. Victoria shook his hand automatically. Hi. First time working with clay? Yes, is that obvious? James smiled. Everyone's a beginner once. Don't worry. Clay is forgiving. It lets you start over as many times as you need. They found seats at the table. James distributed lumps of clay to each person. The clay was cool and damp in Victoria's hands, heavier than she expected. Today we're going to learn basic forms, James said. Don't worry about making something perfect. The goal is to feel the clay, understand how it moves, how it responds to pressure. Victoria watched as James demonstrated. His hands moved with practiced confidence, shaping the clay into a smooth ball, then a cylinder, then a simple bowl. Your turn, he said. Just play with it. See what happens. Victoria pressed her thumbs into the clay. It yielded, if and responsive. She pushed, pulled, shaped. The clay didn't judge her, didn't care that she was the woman from the viral video. It just existed, waiting to become whatever she decided to make it. Something inside Victoria's chest loosened slightly. For the next hour, she focused only on the clay in her hands. Not on Derek, not on the wedding, not on anything except the texture of the wet earth and the simple pleasure of creating something with her own hands. She made a lopsided bowl. The walls were too thick on one side, too thin on the other. The rim wobbled. It was objectively terrible, but it was hers. James stopped by her station. "Nice work for your first time." Victoria looked at her misshapen bowl. "It's awful." "It's honest. You didn't try to make it perfect. You just made it. That takes courage." Something in Victoria's throat tightened. Tears threatened. She blinked them back quickly. "Thank you." The class ended. People cleaned their stations and filed out. Victoria and Rachel stayed to help James organize supplies. "So what did you think?" James asked Victoria as he stacked clay blocks. "It was peaceful. I didn't expect that. That's what keeps people coming back. Clay demands your attention. You can't think about your problems while you're centering a piece on the wheel. Your whole focus has to be on the now." "The now," Victoria repeated. "That sounds nice." James studied her face. Victoria braced herself for recognition, but his expression remained neutral. "Curious, but not invasive." "You seem like you're carrying something heavy," he said gently. "Whatever it is, you're welcome here. This studio is a judgment-free zone." Victoria felt tears building again. She seemed to cry at everything these days. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Rachel drove Victoria home as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You smiled today," Rachel said. "Just for a minute when you were working with the clay. But you smiled." "Did I?" "Yeah, first genuine smile I've seen in months." Victoria leaned her head against the window. "James was nice. He didn't recognize me. Or he did and decided to be professional about it. Either way, he treated you like a person, not like a viral video." Back at her apartment, Victoria noticed something different. The space felt less oppressive, less like a prison. Maybe it was the pottery class, or maybe it was the court victory from last week. Maggie had called with good news. Derek had agreed to a settlement. He would pay back the stolen money plus damages, $53,000 total. He would also sign over any claim to Victoria's grandmother's house. He didn't want to go to trial, Maggie had explained. The evidence against him is overwhelming. His lawyer convinced him that settling was his best option. Victoria had expected to feel triumphant. Instead, she felt hollow. The money couldn't fix what Derek had broken, couldn't undo the viral video, couldn't give her back the version of herself who trusted people. But it was something, a recognition that what he did was wrong, that she deserved compensation. Her phone rang. Patricia. "Hi, Mom." "Victoria, I have news. Helen Harrison called me today." Victoria's stomach clenched. She hadn't spoken to Derek's mother since the wedding. What did she want? To apologize, actually apologize, not the fake apology from before. She said she's been in therapy. Her therapist helped her see how she enabled Derek's behavior, how she always made excuses for him instead of holding him accountable. "Okay." "She wanted me to give you a message. She said she's sorry for how she treated you after the wedding, for trying to convince you to forgive him. She said you deserve better, and she's ashamed of her son." Victoria sat on her couch processing this. "I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything with it. Just know that even Derek's own mother sees the truth now. You weren't crazy. You weren't overreacting. What he did was unforgivable." After the call ended, Victoria sat in the quiet apartment. Outside, the city hummed with life. Cars honked. People shouted. Sirens wailed in the distance. She thought about James's words. "Clay lets you start over as many times as you need." Maybe she could do that. Start over, not by forgetting what happened, but by building something new from the broken pieces. Victoria pulled out her laptop and looked up the Pottery Studio's website. They offered open studio hours, times when anyone could come in and work on personal projects. She booked a session for tomorrow evening. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She opened her old sketchbook. Before Derek, Victoria had loved to draw landscapes, portraits, abstract shapes that captured her mood. Derek had dismissed her art, called it a waste of time, said she should focus on practical skills. So she had stopped drawing. Now Victoria picked up a pencil. Her hand trembled slightly. It had been so long. What if she had forgotten how? She started with simple lines, then curves, then shapes that became trees, clouds, birds. Her drawing was rusty. The proportions were off. The perspective was wrong. But it was hers, and it felt like reclaiming a part of herself she thought Derek had killed. Victoria drew until her hand cramped and her eyes burned. She filled page after page with images that poured out of some deep place inside her. Dark images and images, but also images of light breaking through storm clouds, of flowers growing in cracked pavement, of hope, tentative and fragile. When she finally stopped, it was past midnight. Her apartment was littered with sketches. She felt exhausted, but also something else, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Alive. Not happy, not healed, but alive in a way that mattered. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Victoria realized her hand had moved to her phone automatically. The old compulsion, the nervous habit born from trauma. But this time she stopped herself, put the phone down, took a deep breath. She didn't need to check it, didn't need to search for messages that would make her feel worse, didn't need to Google articles about Derek or Amber or the wedding. She needed to be here, in this moment, with her sketches and her tired hands and her fragile hope. Victoria went to bed without checking her phone. She lay in the darkness and thought about the pottery class, about James's kind eyes, about the feel of clay yielding under her hands. She thought about the settlement money coming soon, enough to rebuild her savings, enough to feel secure again. She thought about Helen Harrison's apology, about how even Derek's own mother had finally seen the truth, and she thought about the drawings scattered across her living room, proof that she still had something inside her worth expressing, that Derek hadn't destroyed everything. For the first time in 6 months, Victoria fell asleep without crying. She dreamed of clay spinning on a wheel, of her hands shaping something beautiful, of creating instead of grieving. When she woke at dawn, she actually felt rested, not fully healed, but rested. She made herself coffee, real coffee, not the instant kind she had been surviving on. She cooked eggs and toast. She ate at the table instead of standing over the sink. Small things, simple things, but they mattered. Victoria dressed in clean clothes, brushed her hair, put on a little makeup, not for anyone else, for herself. She looked in the mirror. The stranger was still there, still hollow-eyed and too thin, but not quite as broken as before. "You're going to be okay," Victoria told her reflection. This time it almost felt true. She spent the day applying for jobs. Real jobs, not the desperate applications she had sent out last month. She updated her resume, wrote thoughtful cover letters, focused on positions at art galleries and creative studios, places where her past might be seen as overcoming adversity rather than shameful failure. That evening, she went back to the pottery studio. James was there, working on a large vase. "Victoria," he said, looking genuinely pleased, "you came back. You said open studio hours were available. They are. Come on in. Find a wheel. Let's see what you can make." Victoria sat at the pottery wheel James indicated. He showed her how to center the clay, how to use steady pressure to shape it without collapsing the walls. "The key is confidence," James said. "If you hesitate, the clay feels it. You have to commit to the shape you're making." "What if I mess up?" "Then you start over. That's the beauty of clay. Every mistake is just a chance to try again." Victoria worked for 2 hours. She made 3 bowls. The first collapsed immediately. The second wobbled badly but held its shape. The third was almost good. Almost something she could be proud of. As she cleaned her station, James approached. "Can I ask you something personal?" Victoria tensed. Here it comes. The recognition. The questions about the video. "Sure," she said carefully. "You seem like you're recovering from something. I don't need to know what, but I wanted you to know that this space is safe. Whatever you're working through, you can work through it here." Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you, that's really kind." I mean it. Art heals. Creating something with your hands, making beauty from raw materials, it changes something inside you. I've seen it happen over and over. Is that what happened to you? James smiled, but it was sad. Divorce 3 years ago. My ex-wife left me for my business partner. Took half my money and most of my friends. I was a mess for a long time. Pottery was what saved me. Victoria's heart ached with recognition. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry for whatever happened to you. But here's what I learned. The worst moments of your life don't have to define you. They can refine you instead. Turn you into something stronger. Victoria thought about that as she drove home. Refine instead of define. She liked that. Back in her apartment, Victoria made a decision. She would stop hiding, stop avoiding the world, stop waiting for people to forget the video before she started living again. The video would never disappear, but she could build a life big enough that it was just one small part of her story, not the entire story. She opened her laptop and looked at the job applications she had sent. 3 galleries had already responded, requesting interviews. Progress. Real, tangible progress. Victoria stood and walked to her window. The city spread out below, glittering in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably sitting in his mother's house, regretting his choices. Somewhere out there, Amber was probably manipulating another man, planning another betrayal. But Victoria was here, in her own apartment, making her own art, building her own life, and slowly, painfully, impossibly, she was healing. I deserve someone who chooses me, Victoria said aloud to the empty apartment. Every single day, without hesitation, without conditions. The words felt powerful, true. She didn't know if she would ever find that person. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she would spend the rest of her life alone. But alone was better than being with someone who made her feel small, who stole from her, who planned her public humiliation like it was entertainment. Victoria was done making herself smaller for men who didn't deserve her. She was done apologizing for taking up space. She was done carrying Derek's cruelty like it was her shame to bear. He did this, not her, him, and she was finally starting to believe it. 10 months after the wedding disaster, Victoria got a job. Not just any job, a good job. At the Riverside Gallery, a prestigious art space that showcased emerging artists and hosted monthly exhibitions. The gallery owner, Catherine Park, had called her in for a third interview. Victoria had been honest about her past, about the viral video, about everything. Catherine had listened quietly. Then she had said, I saw the video when it first went viral. My first thought was that you handled it with remarkable dignity. My second thought was that any man who would do that to someone is deeply broken. And my third thought was that I hoped you found a good lawyer. Victoria had smiled. I did. She destroyed him. Good. When can you start? Now Victoria stood in the gallery on her first day arranging a new exhibition. Photographs by a local artist who documented urban decay and renewal. The images were stark, beautiful, honest. She felt at home here among the art. This was what she had gone to school for all those years ago. Before Derek, before she had convinced herself that accounting was more practical than following her passion. James stopped by during lunch. They had become friends over the past few months. Easy, comfortable friends who talked about art and life and recovery without making it heavy. He brought sandwiches from the deli down the street. They sat on the gallery steps, eating in the autumn sunshine. The space looks good, James said, gesturing to the windows where Victoria had hung photographs. You have a good eye for arrangement. Thanks, I was worried that I was too rusty. Nah, some things you don't forget. They're in your bones. Victoria watched people walk past, businessmen in suits, students with backpacks, an elderly couple holding hands, all living their lives, unaware that the woman from that viral video was sitting right there. You seem lighter, James observed, different from when you first came to the studio. I feel different, stronger maybe, or just more myself. Have you heard from him, your ex? Victoria had told James about Derek in pieces over the months, never the whole story at once. Just fragments that came out during pottery sessions or coffee after class. No, the settlement went through last month. Maggie handled everything. I got the money, plus Derek had to pay all my legal fees. He tried to contact me once through social media, but I blocked him. What did he want? I don't know. I didn't read the message. Maggie said I didn't have to engage, so I didn't. James nodded approvingly. Good. Some people don't deserve your energy. Exactly. They finished lunch. James had to get back to the studio for an afternoon class. Victoria had to prepare for a potential buyer coming to view the exhibition. Hey, James said before leaving, a group of us are going out Friday night. Just drinks and dinner. Want to come? Victoria hesitated. Social situations still made her nervous. Too many chances to be recognized. Too many opportunities for judgment. But Dr. Chen kept encouraging her to expand her social circle, to rebuild the parts of her life that depression had eroded. Okay, Victoria said, I'll come. Great, I'll text you the details. Friday night came too quickly. Victoria changed outfits 4 times before settling on black jeans and a burgundy sweater. Simple, comfortable, nothing that would draw attention. Rachel approved via video chat. You look great, and if it gets overwhelming, just leave. No one will judge you for taking care of yourself. The restaurant was downtown, a place that served creative tapas and had too loud music. James had already arrived with 3 other people from the pottery studio. Victoria recognized them from classes. Sarah, who worked as a nurse. Tom, a retired accountant. And Maya, a college student studying art therapy. They greeted Victoria warmly. No one mentioned the video, no one stared. They just treated her like a normal person joining friends for dinner. Victoria felt herself relax slightly. They ordered food. Shared plates of patatas, bravas, and garlic shrimp and stuffed dates. The conversation flowed easily. Art, politics, bad movies they secretly loved. So Victoria, Maya said, James mentioned you just started working at the Riverside Gallery. That's amazing. What's the current exhibition? Victoria described the photographs, the way the artist captured beauty in abandoned buildings and overgrown lots. How decay could be gorgeous if you looked at it the right way. That's such a great metaphor, Sarah said. Finding beauty in broken things. Tom raised his glass. To finding beauty in broken things, including ourselves. They all clinked glasses. Victoria felt a lump in her throat. These people didn't know her whole story, but they knew enough, and they accepted her anyway. After dinner, they walked to a nearby bar. It was quieter there, with dim lighting and booths upholstered in dark leather. Victoria found herself sitting next to James. Their shoulders touched in the crowded booth. It felt comfortable, safe. Thank you for inviting me, Victoria said. I needed this. I didn't realize how much until right now. Friends are important, James said, especially when you're rebuilding. You're really good at this, at reading people, at knowing what they need. James smiled. Comes from being broken myself. You learn the language of wounded people. Are you still broken? I think we're all a little broken. The question is whether we're healing or just carrying the pieces around. Victoria considered that. I think I'm healing, finally. It doesn't hurt as much as it used to. That's good. Pain is a teacher, but you're not supposed to live with it forever. Maya suggested karaoke. Victoria immediately declined. No way was she getting on a stage, even a small one in a bar. But watching her new friends sing badly to 80s power ballads felt joyful, uncomplicated, fun. She couldn't remember the last time she had fun. The night ended around 11. James walked Victoria to her car. Thanks again for tonight, Victoria said. Anytime. You're good company. Even though I'm still kind of a mess. We're all messes, Victoria. You just own yours more honestly than most people. She drove home feeling full. Not just from dinner, from connection, from the simple pleasure of being around people who didn't make her feel broken. When she got back to her apartment, she did something she hadn't done in months. She looked at the viral video, not to torture herself, but to see it with new eyes, to look at that woman at the altar and recognize that she had survived. Victoria watched herself in the torn dress, watched the shock and hurt on her face, watched Derek and Amber walk away, and she felt nothing. Not pain, not rage, just a distant sadness for the woman she used to be. You made it through, Victoria told the woman on screen. You survived the worst thing you could imagine. And you're okay now. You're actually okay. She closed the laptop, made herself tea. did some stretching exercises Dr. Chen had recommended for anxiety. Then she sat on her couch and sketched. She had been drawing more, filling sketchbooks with images that poured out of her, some dark, some light, honest. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. Had a great time tonight. Same thing next month? Victoria smiled. Definitely. She set her phone down and kept drawing. The pencil moved across paper, creating lines that became a face. Her face, but different, stronger, with clear eyes and a set jaw. This was who she was becoming. Someone who could sit in a booth with friends. Someone who could laugh at bad karaoke. Someone who could look at her worst moment and feel compassion instead of shame. The settlement money had hit her account last week. $53,000. She had cried when she saw it. Not from joy, from closure. Derek had finally paid for what he did. Victoria divided the money carefully. Some went to rebuilding her savings. Some went to paying off the credit cards Derek had maxed out in her name. Some went to finally replacing furniture that still carried his ghost. And some went to art supplies, canvases, paints, clay, everything she needed to keep creating. Because that was the real revenge, not destroying Derek, not making him suffer. The real revenge was building a life so full and beautiful that he became irrelevant. Victoria finished her sketch. The woman looking back at her was recognizable but transformed. The same face, but the eyes were different, harder, wiser. She tore the page out and taped it to her bathroom mirror, a reminder of who she was becoming. You're doing it, she told her reflection. You're actually doing it. And for the first time in 10 months, she believed it completely. 14 months after Derek destroyed her wedding dress, he destroyed himself. Victoria was at the Riverside Gallery arranging flowers for an opening when her phone buzzed. A text from Maggie Sullivan. Derek is outside your workplace. He wants to talk. I've advised him this violates the no contact clause in your settlement. If he approaches you, call the police immediately. Victoria's hands went cold. She looked toward the gallery's glass front windows. There across the street, she saw him. Derek stood on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets. He looked terrible. Thinner, older. His clothes were rumpled, hair too long. He was staring at the gallery, at her. Catherine appeared at Victoria's shoulder. Is that him? Yes. Want me to call the cops? Victoria took a deep breath. No, let me handle it. You sure? I'm sure. I need to do this. Victoria walked to the door. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. She stepped outside into the November cold. Derek saw her and started across the street. Stop, Victoria said firmly. Don't come any closer. He stopped, 10 feet away, close enough to talk, too far to touch. Victoria, he said, his voice cracked. Thank you for coming out. I know I'm not supposed to be here. You're right, you're not. What do you want? To talk. 5 minutes, please. You had 3 years to talk. You used that time to plan my public humiliation instead. I know. I made a huge mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Victoria crossed her arms. That's why you're here? To tell me you made a mistake? I want to make it right. You can't make it right, Derek. You tore my dress off in front of 200 people. You stole my money. You destroyed my grandmother's legacy. You can't fix that. I paid you back. All of it, plus damages. I signed over the house. I did everything you asked. Because a judge told you to. Not because you wanted to. Derek's face flushed. That's not fair. I'm trying here. You're trying now. Where was this energy when Amber was in my kitchen? When you were emailing her about how pathetic I was? When you were planning exactly how to hurt me the most? She manipulated me. Amber manipulated me. She said she was pregnant. Said I had to choose. So you chose to rip my dress off. That was your solution. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking very clearly. You planned it. You emailed about it. You bought her that red dress with my money. You thought about it. Derek, you wanted to destroy me. Derek's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was confused. I thought I wanted something different. But I was wrong. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away. Victoria felt nothing. His tears didn't move her. His apology meant nothing. "You're not sorry you hurt me," she said calmly. "You're sorry you lost your comfortable life. You're sorry Amber left you when the money ran out. You're sorry you have to face consequences." "That's not true." "It is true. If Amber had stayed, you wouldn't be here. You'd be with her, telling yourself that leaving me was the best decision you ever made." Derek stepped closer. "Please, just give me another chance. We were good together. We can be good again. Stop. Don't come any closer." He took another step. "Victoria, I love you. I never stopped loving you." "You don't love me. You loved controlling me. You loved having someone who made you feel like a good man while you did terrible things. I was your mirror, Derek. I reflected back what you wanted to see. But Amber showed you who you really are." "No, no, that's not—" "A man who tears his fiancée's dress off at the altar in front of everyone she loves. A man who steals from the woman who trusted him. A man who plans someone's public humiliation and calls it passion. That's who you are." Derek's face crumpled. "I've changed. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself." "Good. Keep working on yourself, but stay away from me." "Victoria, please. I made a mistake, but I love you. You made a choice. You chose to humiliate me. You chose to steal from me. You chose to plan my public destruction. Those aren't mistakes, Derek. That's who you are." His desperation increased. "But I love you." "No, you loved controlling me. You loved having someone who made you feel like a good man. I was your mirror. Amber was your truth." Derek lunged forward and grabbed Victoria's arm. "Just listen to me. Let go of me. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." A hand appeared between them. James had materialized from somewhere, his face hard. She said, "Let go." Derek released Victoria's arm and stumbled back. "Who the hell is this?" "Someone who would never tear my dress off at our wedding," Victoria said. Derek's face went red. "Are you serious? You're with him? How long have you been—" "That's none of your business." "It is my business. We were supposed to get married." "No, you were supposed to marry me. Then you changed your mind in the most public, humiliating way possible. I don't owe you explanations about my life." A small crowd had gathered, people on the sidewalk sensing drama. Phones came out. Victoria recognized the pattern. Someone would film this. It would end up online. Good. Let them film. Let the world see Derek begging. Let them see Victoria strong and unbroken. Derek seemed to realize he was being recorded. His eyes darted to the phones. "Turn those off. This is private." "Nothing about you and me has ever been private," Victoria said. "You made sure of that when you let that wedding video go viral." "I didn't let it go viral. Other people posted it. You tore my dress off in front of 200 people. What did you think would happen?" Derek's composure shattered. He dropped to his knees on the cold sidewalk. "Please, please, Victoria. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I need you. I can't live without you." "Then you should have thought of that before you destroyed me. I'll go to therapy. I'll get help. I'll be better. Just give me another chance." Victoria looked down at him kneeling on the sidewalk, crying, begging. The man she had loved for 3 years, the man she had planned to spend her life with. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, nothing. He was a stranger who once wasted her time. "No," Victoria said simply. "Stand up, Derek. You're embarrassing yourself." "I don't care. I don't care if people see me like this. I just want you back." "You can't have me back. I don't exist anymore. The woman you knew, the one who made herself small for you, the one who ignored warning signs because she wanted to believe you were good, she's gone. You destroyed her, and what's left has no use for you." Derek grabbed at Victoria's legs. "Please, please don't do this." James stepped between them. "That's enough." She said no, accept it and leave. "This is between me and Victoria." "No," Victoria said. "There is no me and you anymore. There's just me, and I'm walking away now." She turned and walked back toward the gallery. Her legs shook, but she kept them steady. Her heart pounded, but her head was high. Behind her, Derek's voice rose to a scream. "You're going to regret this. When you're 40 and alone, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that I begged you for a second chance. Victoria stopped, turned around, looked at him one last time. I looked at you crying and felt nothing, she said clearly. Not satisfaction, not anger, nothing. You're a stranger who once hurt me, and now you don't even have that power anymore. She went back inside the gallery. Catherine locked the door behind her. Through the glass, Victoria watched James talk to Derek. Firm words. Derek shaking his head, James pointing down the street. Finally, Derek stood and walked away, shoulders hunched. The crowd dispersed. The phones lowered. The show was over. James came inside. You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you for intervening. He was getting aggressive. I couldn't just watch. How did you know to come? I saw him from my car. I was driving by to drop off those glazed pieces we talked about. I saw him grab you and parked illegally. Victoria laughed. It came out shaky but genuine. Thank you. Really? Catherine brought Victoria water. That took guts, facing him like that. It needed to happen. He needed to hear that I'm done. That begging won't change anything. The way you handled it was impressive. Cold, but fair. Victoria drank the water. Her hands had stopped shaking. He expected me to crumble, to forgive him because he was crying. But I've done all my crying. I'm fresh out of forgiveness for men who planned my humiliation. James smiled. Good. He doesn't deserve your forgiveness. That evening, Victoria drove to Rachel's apartment. She needed to tell her friend what happened before the video hit social media. Because there would be a video. There was always a video. Rachel opened the door with wine already poured. I heard. It's already trending. Victoria sat on Rachel's couch and pulled out her phone. The video was everywhere. Hashtag Derek begs back. Hashtag wedding dress revenge. This video was different from the first one. In this video, Victoria was strong, calm, composed. She didn't cry, didn't scream, just stated facts and walked away. Derek was the one crying. Derek was the one begging. Derek was the one looking pathetic. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. She handled that perfectly. This is what dignity looks like. He's pathetic. She's a queen. The way she looked at him with zero emotion. Iconic. Justice served cold. Victoria read the comments with something like wonder. For the first time since this nightmare started, public opinion was on her side. You did it, Rachel said. Rachel. You got your justice, your dignity, your revenge. It wasn't revenge, Victoria said slowly. Revenge would have been hurting him on purpose. This was just the truth. He begged, and I said no. That's all. Sometimes the truth is the best revenge. Victoria set her phone down. You know what the weird thing is? I thought I'd feel something. Satisfaction or vindication or something. But I just felt tired. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for a longer time and finally got to put it down. That's closure, babe. That's what healing feels like. They finished the wine, ordered pizza, watched a terrible reality show where people yelled at each other about things that didn't matter. Normal, comfortable, safe. Around midnight, Victoria's phone buzzed. A text from James. You were amazing today. In case no one's told you that yet. Victoria smiled. Thank you for having my back. Anytime. Coffee tomorrow? I want to hear how you're really doing. Definitely. Victoria drove home through empty streets. The city was quiet at this hour. Peaceful. In her apartment, she looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The sketch she had taped there months ago stared back. The woman with hard, wise eyes. She had become that woman. Finally, Victoria pulled the sketch down and replaced it with a new one. This drawing showed a woman standing in sunlight, face tilted up, smiling. You made it through, Victoria told her reflection. Derek is just background noise now, static, irrelevant. She went to bed without checking her phone again, without Googling Derek's name, without searching for new videos or articles. She didn't need to anymore. Whatever happened with Derek from here was his problem, his burden to carry. Victoria had carried enough for both of them. She was done. As she drifted off to sleep, she thought about James, about his kind eyes and steady presence, about how he showed up when she needed someone without being asked. She wasn't ready for a relationship, Might not be ready for a long time, but it was nice to know that good men existed. Men who would step between you and danger. Men who would bring you coffee and ask how you're really doing. Men who would never tear your dress off at the altar. Men unlike Derek. And that knowledge, more than anything else, felt like freedom. 18 months after the wedding that never happened, Victoria stood in the Riverside Gallery surrounded by her art. Her art, not someone else's. Hers. The exhibition was titled Resilience, 20 paintings and 10 ceramic pieces, all created over the past year. Each one documented a stage of her journey from broken to whole. The first painting was dark, all blacks and grays and angry reds. It showed a figure curled in on itself, drowning in shadows. The last painting was light, golds and blues and soft pinks. A figure standing tall with arms outstretched, face turned toward the sun. Between those two paintings, the story unfolded. Pain, anger, grief, acceptance, hope, joy. Her story. Victoria walked through the gallery, straightening frames that didn't need straightening. Tonight was the opening reception. People would come, journalists, collectors, friends, and they would see her truth displayed on these walls. She was terrified, exhilarated, both at once. "Stop fussing," Catherine said, appearing at Victoria's elbow. "The show looks perfect. What if no one comes? Everyone's coming. We had to add extra chairs for seating capacity. What if they hate it? Then they hate it, but they won't. Your work is powerful, Victoria. You're telling a story that resonates." Rachel arrived early, carrying a bouquet of white roses. "For the artist," she said, presenting them with a flourish. Victoria took the flowers, white roses, like the ones at her wedding. But these roses were hers to claim, hers to redefine. "Thank you for everything," Victoria said. "For dragging me to pottery class, for staying with me through all the dark nights, for believing I would make it through. I never doubted you, even when you doubted yourself." More people arrived. James brought a group from the pottery studio. Patricia came with Helen Harrison. Victoria nearly stopped breathing when she saw Derek's mother. Helen looked older, grayer, but her eyes were kind as she approached Victoria. "I know I'm the last person you expected to see here," Helen said quietly, "but I wanted to come, to support you, to show you that not everyone in that family is broken." "Thank you," Victoria managed. "That means a lot. I've been following your work online. You're very talented. Derek was a fool to treat you the way he did." "He was, but I'm past it now." "I can see that. You're glowing, Victoria. Truly glowing. I'm so happy you found your way through." Helen handed her a card. "This is from me, not from Derek, a contribution to your art. Use it to keep creating." Inside the card was a check for $5,000. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Helen, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. My son destroyed enough of yours. Let me rebuild a small piece." The gallery filled. More people than Victoria had expected. Some she knew, many she didn't. A reporter from the arts section of the newspaper interviewed her. "Your work is incredibly raw. How much of this is autobiographical?" Victoria smiled. "All of it. Every piece is a chapter in my recovery from trauma." "The viral video that made headlines last year, is that the trauma you're referencing?" "It's part of it. But the real trauma was believing someone who told me I was safe and boring. The real healing was learning that safe isn't an insult, that stability and kindness matter more than passion and excitement." The reporter wrote furiously in her notebook. "What would you say to other people recovering from public humiliation or betrayal?" Victoria thought carefully. "I would say that the worst thing that ever happened to you doesn't have to define you. It can refine you instead. It can teach you who you really are underneath all the fear and shame. And that person, the one who survives, is usually stronger and more interesting than the person you were before." "Beautiful, thank you." The reporter moved on. James approached with champagne. "To the artist," he said, handing Victoria a glass. "To surviving," Victoria countered. They clinked glasses. James nodded toward her paintings. "You put everything out there. That takes courage. Or insanity, I'm not sure which." "Courage, definitely courage. Most people hide their pain. You turned yours into beauty." "That sounds very poetic." "It's true. You took the worst moment of your life and made it mean something. That's alchemy." A woman Victoria didn't know approached. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with nervous energy. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Victoria Matthews?" Victoria braced herself. Here it comes. Recognition, judgment. "Yes. I saw your video, the wedding one. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring up bad memories, but seeing you here tonight, seeing this exhibition, it gave me hope. My boyfriend left me last year. Not as public as your situation, but still humiliating. I thought I'd never recover, but seeing what you created from your pain, it made me think maybe I can too." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "You can. It takes time and help and letting yourself feel everything without judgment, but you absolutely can. Thank you, really. Your art is incredible." The woman moved on. James touched Victoria's shoulder. "See, you're helping people. That's what good art does." Father Thomas O'Brien arrived, still wearing his clerical collar. He had aged since the wedding. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. "Victoria," he started, "I'm so proud of you. What you've accomplished here is remarkable. Thank you for coming, Father. I wouldn't have missed it. I've thought about you often over the past 18 months. Wondered if you were okay. Prayed for your healing. Your prayers worked. I'm okay. Actually okay, not just saying it." Father O'Brien studied the paintings. He stopped at one Victoria had titled The Altar. It showed a woman standing alone in a church, but she wasn't crying. She was removing her veil, choosing to walk away. "This one especially," he said. "This captures something essential. The moment you decided to survive instead of merely exist." "That's exactly what it is." "Derek called me a few months ago," Father O'Brien said carefully. "He wanted to know if I thought you would ever forgive him." "What did you tell him?" "I told him that forgiveness isn't about what the forgiven person deserves. It's about what the forgiving person needs. And that he should focus on becoming someone worthy of forgiveness, not on demanding it." "That's perfect. Did he listen?" "I don't know. I haven't heard from him since." The evening continued. People circulated, wine flowed. Catherine announced that 3 paintings had already sold, with interest in several more. Victoria stood in the center of her exhibition, surrounded by her story on the walls, and felt something she hadn't felt in 18 months. Complete, not healed. Healing was ongoing, but complete, whole. Herself again, but better. As the crowd thinned, James pulled Victoria aside. "Can I take you to dinner, to celebrate?" "That would be nice." They left the gallery together. Outside, the spring evening was warm. The sun had just set, painting the sky in purples and pinks. They walked to a quiet restaurant nearby, sat in a corner booth, ordered pasta and wine. "Can I ask you something personal?" James said. Victoria smiled. "You always ask before asking. Just ask. Are you ready for this?" He gestured between them. "I like you, Victoria. I've liked you since that first pottery class. But I don't want to push if you're not ready." Victoria's heart did something complicated. Fear, hope, both. "I don't know if I'm ready," she said honestly. "Part of me thinks I'll never be ready, that Derek broke something that can't be fixed. But, but another part of me thinks that being with you is different. You've never made me feel small. You've never made me question myself. You show up when I need someone without making me feel weak for needing someone. That's what people who care about each other do." "I know, but I didn't know that before. Derek taught me that needing people was weakness, that asking for help was pathetic. I'm still unlearning that." James reached across the table and took her hand. "Then we'll go slow as you need. I'm not going anywhere." Victoria looked at their hands joined on the table. Her scarred, clay-stained fingers intertwined with his. It felt right, safe. But safe wasn't boring anymore. Safe was what she deserved, what she had earned. "Okay," she said, "slow. I can do slow." They finished dinner. James walked Victoria to her car. At the driver's side door, he paused. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. Victoria's breath caught. "Yes." He kissed her gently, asking permission with his movements, not taking, offering. When they pulled apart, Victoria was smiling. "That was nice." "Yeah, it was." "Same time next week?" Definitely. Victoria drove home through the city streets. She passed the church where her wedding had almost happened. She didn't feel the usual tightness in her chest, didn't feel the need to look away. It was just a building. It didn't own her anymore. Back at her apartment, Victoria changed into pajamas and made tea. She sat on her couch, new, bought with her own money, untouched by Derek, and pulled out her phone. Derek's number appeared in her contacts, the one she had blocked months ago. She unblocked it, not to contact him, just to delete it permanently, to remove the last trace of him from her digital life. As she was about to delete, a notification appeared. Derek had tried to call her tonight, left a voicemail. Victoria stared at the notification. She could delete it unheard, should delete it unheard, but curiosity won. She pressed play. Derek's voice filled her apartment, thick with tears. Victoria, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I'm the last person you want to talk to. But I saw the article about your exhibition. I saw the photos of your paintings, and I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of what you've created, what you've become. I know I don't have the right to be proud. I know I'm the one who tried to destroy you. But seeing you thrive after everything I did, it makes me think maybe I didn't completely ruin you. Maybe you were always this strong, and I just couldn't see it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Not for my sake. I know we're done. I know you've moved on. I'm sorry because you deserve to hear it without any agenda, without me wanting anything from you. You deserve better than me. You deserve everything good that's happening for you now. I hope you're happy, Victoria. I really do. Goodbye. The message ended. Victoria sat in silence, processing. It was a good apology, maybe even a genuine one. Derek taking responsibility without asking for anything in return. A year ago, this message would have destroyed her, would have made her question everything, would have made her wonder if she should give him another chance. Now she felt nothing, not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity, just indifference. Derek was a chapter in her story, an important chapter, a painful chapter, but just a chapter, not the whole book. Victoria deleted the voicemail, deleted Derek's contact, blocked the number again. Then she opened her laptop and started sketching ideas for her next collection. She had so many more stories to tell, so much more art to create. The viral video that had destroyed her launched her art career. Galleries wanted her work because of her story. Collectors bought her pieces because they understood her journey. Derek had tried to break her. Instead, he had freed her from a life of making herself small, from believing she was boring and safe, from thinking she needed someone else to be complete. He had accidentally given her the greatest gift, proof that she could survive anything. Victoria's phone buzzed, a text from James. Thank you for tonight. I haven't felt this hopeful in a long time. She smiled and typed back, me neither. Same time next week? It's a date. Victoria set her phone aside and kept sketching. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, her apartment was warm and quiet and hers. She looked around at her space. New furniture. Her artwork on the walls. Books she actually wanted to read. Plants she remembered to water. A life built from scratch. A life that belonged only to her. The woman from the wedding video was gone. That broken, humiliated version of herself had died when Derek tore her dress. What emerged from those ruins was someone new, someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who could look at the worst moment of her life and say, that happened. It was terrible. But I survived, and I turned my pain into beauty. Victoria stood and walked to her window, the city spread out below, glittering with infinite possibilities. She had survived, she had healed, she had created something meaningful from destruction. And tomorrow she would wake up and keep creating, keep healing, keep surviving. Not because Derek deserved her forgiveness, not because she was trying to prove anything to anyone, but because she deserved to thrive. She deserved joy and art and love and every good thing life had to offer. She deserved to be chosen every single day without hesitation. And if she never found someone who could do that, if she spent the rest of her life alone, that was okay too, because she had finally learned the most important lesson. She could choose herself every day, without conditions, without apology. Victoria Matthews chose Victoria Matthews, and that choice changed everything. Victoria's story reminds us that our worst moments don't define us. They refine us. That being broken doesn't mean staying broken. And sometimes the person who tries to destroy you ends up giving you the greatest gift, proof that you're stronger than you ever knew. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in second chances for yourself, not for the people who hurt you, but for yourself, please hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they can survive anything. Drop a comment below telling me what would you have said to Derek on those courthouse steps. And subscribe because every week I bring you stories of resilience, revenge, and women who refuse to stay down. Stories that remind you you're not alone, you're not broken, you're just becoming. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember the best revenge is becoming someone they can't recognize anymore. This is your reminder that you deserve to be chosen every single day, without hesitation. If Victoria's journey from that torn wedding dress to complete freedom moved you, show some love with a like. Share the story with someone who needs hope right now. Comment below, I survived, if you've ever rebuilt yourself from rock bottom. And subscribe for more stories about women who turn their pain into power. Because you deserve to hear stories where the villain loses and the survivor wins. See you next time. Stay strong.